This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning, the day after, as it were. Thanks for joining us. We will be reviewing some of the action from yesterday and really the entire weekend with Steve Bick. He'll join us a little bit later on, so stay tuned for that. Top of the show, however, always want to thank you for joining us and our friends at Woodbine for sponsoring the program. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border. Let me hit on a couple of the promos, some quick ones here, because I do want to remind you of Bet 100, Get 100. Want to continue to do that through the end of the month because it's a great way to sign up for a new Capital OTB bet account and get some free dough. As soon as you do sign up for a new account and bet $100 into it, Capital OTB will put $100 into your brand new account. That promotion continues through May 31st. So again, keep that in mind. If you're thinking about signing up for a new account, now is the time to do it. If you have an account and you want to wager this weekend, your Churchill wagers today will get an extra 3%. Player bonus. There are some restrictions. Keep that in mind. Check out the website. But the Churchill Players Bonus continues on wagering at Churchill this Sunday afternoon. And speaking of Sunday afternoon and wagering, come on down to the Clubhouse Racebook and join us for all the horse racing action, obviously. But there's also a $100 win-a-bet contest today. Should be a lot of fun. Always is if we get a nice little crowd in here, a little buzz, and the chance to win some extra cash. The $100 win-a-bet contest today at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Yesterday at the Clubhouse Racebook, I had the $1,000 Preakness Bankroll. My apologies to the Preakness Bankroll team. I whiffed. And again, apologies for it, but when I do these bankrolls, some days it goes your way and you do great. Everybody walks out making some money. Some days it's a 50-50 kind of proposition and you wind up with some money in the bank but didn't do as well as you wanted to. Occasionally you whiff, but I always keep track of what I'm playing during the day, and then later on I'll go over it again and see, could I have done something differently, handicapped differently, bet differently. Yesterday it just was not my day. My opinions were not good, but I went back and it certainly wasn't a matter of betting differently. Some days you do the bankroll and there'll be a race and you play a triple and you realize I should have gone much stronger on the exact. I had an opinion on the top two and I should have just stuck with that. Yesterday wasn't one of those days. I went back and there was really no opportunity to have juggled around the actual wagering and had it make any difference. And then the handicapping, the horses that I didn't like, Lexingtonian was one of the great examples. Didn't like the horse really, and even on the review, I wouldn't have switched things up in that race. And so it was one of those, I'm an exacta player, didn't play a lot of exactas yesterday because I wasn't finding a lot of value. Jumped in the Preakness, still had a pretty good chunk of bankroll left for the Preakness, and we took our shot there. And if the opinion was right in the Preakness, that would have made everything better. My top two, Always Mining and Owendale, really either way with the exacta, they were paying about $120. We took a couple of big exacta shots there. It didn't pan out, but as I say, that would have like doubled the original bankroll. So there were some possibilities during the afternoon, but and then again, reviewing and thinking, could I have played the Preakness differently? I didn't use War Will in my mix. He was one of the horses I could have made an argument for, but I wouldn't have had Dale's horse, Everfast, who was a late entrant. And God bless him for taking the shot. Dale has done some big things in big races with horses that they jumped in and beat American Pharoah up in the Travers a few years ago, and he took his shot with Everfast, again a late entrant. It wasn't until midweek that the horse. I was on the radio with Steve Bix Wednesday morning when the news kind of came out on that one. So it was a late idea, and Everfast comes in underneath. And as I say, I could have juggled up the wagering, so it would have been tough for me to use Everfast in the mix. I liked Owendale. That one ran third in there. And then horses that yesterday in the bankroll that I dumped in, some little backup exactas, running fourth and fifth, Warriors Charge and Laughing Fox. I used them. Why? They came out of Oakland in their last race, which is that angle I've been talking about now for a week and a half, a couple of weeks, since they did so well down at Derby weekend. Payoffs, War of Will, $14. And again, there were folks I had talked to in this week who liked War of Will, thought that trouble in the Derby cost them, and there was some vindication certainly for the War of Will team, and the folks who stuck with them into yesterday. $14 and change there. The exacta with Dale's horse. Dale's horse went off at 29-1, and I have to believe, given the wacky long shot results in the Derby, folks were just jumping in because Dale's horse was 50-1 on the morning line, which was pretty much more like it, but went off at 29-1. So if you like Dale's horse in Houston, I don't think you got paid properly. But that said, the dollar exacta $4.73, dollar superfecta, War of Will, Everfast, Owendale, Warriors Charge, the dollar super $51,000, dollar try 4,600, almost for just 20 cents under. Oh no, just 20 cents under 4,700 for the dollar try. So certainly there was the opportunity to make some money. Didn't work out for me yesterday. Hopefully it did for you. As I talked to people during the day, it seemed to be one of those days where it was hard to string things together, and if people were doing something, it was just to kind of pull them back into a spot of maybe being even or a little bit ahead. But again, there were some opportunities, and maybe if you like Catholic Boy, you could have played a little deeper on either side of him and made a little money that way. He was one that I could see people kind of keying on and working around and going a little bit off the radar to play around him a little bit. But for me, it's again a little bit of a tough day yesterday. Preakness Day. Do want to alert you to an event coming up tonight, because it does benefit some of the organizations that we feature occasionally here on the show. This event tonight will benefit the Thoroughbred Racing Foundation and the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame, along with a couple of others, Adirondack Save a Stray, Columbia Green Humane Society. What is the event? It's a annual memorial tribute to David Cassidy. According to the info that's available online, Gary Contessa will be there taking the stage. I know he was at the, I think it was just last summer, the David Cassidy tribute that was held in Saratoga, and he got up and played a little music. So again, according to this, Contessa will be back, but it's tonight. That's why I wanted to bring it up. King Neptune's Pub and Nightclub in Lake George, goes from 6 until 11. I think the music actually starts at 8, though, according to this. But there'll be a book signing as well. I would guess a little meet and greet, a little mingling from 6 to 8. The book signing, it is Johnny Ray Miller, who wrote a book, When We're Singing, The Partridge Family and Their Music. And again, David Cassidy, and why was there the tribute in Saratoga recently? I think it was last summer. It wasn't any more than 2 summers ago. And Gary Contessa, why is he involved? Because David Cassidy, of course, was a fairly prominent horse owner. Certainly played well in the New York bred ranks, had some prominent horses there. Gary Contessa trained for him. And again, you would see him quite often at Saratoga. He was a a regular presence during the Saratoga meet. So again, David Cassidy, if you remember him from the horse racing days, or you happen to be a Partridge fan and are looking for a little activity tonight, King Neptune's Pub and Nightclub, again from 6 to 8, the book signing from 8 to 11, a little tribute, the band 45 RPM that I guess specializes in music in that era, so you'll hear a lot of David Cassidy music for sure. More information and ticket information as well at the King Neptune's Pub site, kingneptunespub.com. And again, that the proceeds will help to benefit both the TRF Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation and the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. Just want to hit on some numbers. We talked a little bit about it yesterday in review of Black Eyed Susan Day. They had great numbers there with record handle and attendance. Attendance on Friday, Black Eyed Susan Day, 51,000. The handle on Friday, 22 million. So good numbers for Friday. Even better numbers for Saturday, Preakness Day. And again, we were all anxious to see, given that, the air was kind of taken out of the balloon with the top 4 finishers from the Derby not showing up in the Preakness. But I said, you know what, given the controversy and the buzz that created and that it kept up for a couple of weeks, I mean, even into this past week, I have had people walking up to me, what did you think of the DQ? So the buzz was there. I think it wound up to be a nice, fun, competitive field in the Preakness. They had a great undercard. They wound up with great weather. And sure enough, total handle record, 99.852 million, just under 100 million for the card at Pimlico yesterday, and a very good crowd as well, 131,000. Think of those numbers. That's just incredible. And, we covered it here, obviously, on the network, and they would continue throughout the day to show shots of the facility and shots on the infield, and you could just gather from looking at that. It built from that 10:30 post time up until things on the infield were crowded and rocking, you could tell, very early on. And so the numbers indicate, validate what you were seeing on the screen. 131,000 plus yesterday at Pimlico, with again a handle of just under 100 million. So it wound up to be a very good day for Pimlico, very good weekend for Pimlico. And we will talk about that with the man who was on the ground, had the radio show there in the past week, Steve Bick. He was there with the Sirius and XM at the Races show. We'll catch up with Steve after this break and get a little review and some of his thoughts from being on the ground at Pimlico over the past couple of days of racing. That'll come up right after this. Stay tuned.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning, the day after Black-Eyed Susan and Preakness weekend. Going to do a little review with the man who was on the scene with the Sirius and XM radio show at the races, Steve Bick. Steve, good morning.
Seth, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Happy to have you on, and we'll touch on Black-Eyed Susan Day and Preakness Day yesterday in just a moment. Before we do that, though, I have to go back. We had you on a couple of times since the announcement, but I wanted to save it until today. But I want to go back to Thursday, the Alibi Breakfast, where you received the Old Hilltop Award. And for folks who aren't familiar, it goes to an individual who covers horse racing with excellence and distinction. You are this year's recipient. Among the people who have won it in the past, it's incredible. Steve Bick on the list with Red Smith, Joe Hirsch, Jim McKay, and many others. Again, I wanted to save it to today, let the audience know, those who weren't aware, offer you congratulations. And I talked to Scott Wyckoff on Thursday, just after the breakfast, and he's a previous winner himself. But I asked how you did. He said you did a great job accepting the award. Talk a little bit about the breakfast and getting up and accepting an award like that.
Well, it's a humbling honor. You mentioned that list of recipients. Jack Whitaker, probably my favorite all time, as well as Jim McKay, Howard Cosell, Win Elliott, synonymous with radio sports. And I had never had a chance to go to the breakfast. The Alibi Breakfast is one of the great traditions in the sport, going back to the 30s when trainers would hang out at the racing office and to have to come up with their excuses for not winning the Derby. And it's one of the really big social parts of Preakness and for Baltimore in general. And because the show has been on in the mornings, I've never been able to attend. So to be able to attend and receive the Old Hilltop, it's just an incredible honor. I needed to take the opportunity. It's not just to deliver the acknowledgement, but also to call for the Maryland breeding and racing community to do everything in its power to keep the Preakness at PIMILCO and to work with the city and to work with Annapolis and with the Park Heights neighborhood and make a new hilltop. I think it's vital. I don't understand the interest in trying to move this to Laurel Park, where it's not the Preakness. It'll be something, but it won't be what this race is. And everything that they need to move forward with a new PIMILCO is sitting right there. And even the price tag that's been suggested of $400 million that the Stadium Authority came up with, I've talked to people, including Joe DeFrancis, of course, whose family owned PIMILCO and the Maryland Jockey Club before selling to Frank Stronach. And DeFrancis says that it could be done for a lot less. He's got a plan for $150 to $200 million. So those are reasonable sums. And what it would mean to that neighborhood, you can't even estimate. That was my principal concern in accepting the Old Hilltop and making a plea that Old Hilltop remain the host of Preakness forever.
Yeah, and again, congratulations, well deserved, and I'm sure you like I'm here in the studio most of the time, and up at Saratoga it's a little bit different, and I know standing with you on the front side at Saratoga, you get it as well. We're kind of recognized up there occasionally, and people are nice enough to come up and say hello and appreciate the work and whatnot, but most of the time I'm down here in this studio, you're in your home studio, and you don't get the feedback, so I think it's just nice when you get a recognition like that, and it kind of validates the hard work you put in, and you, with the travels around, certainly do put in the hard work, and you did a great job again this week leading into the Preakness. Getting back to, and speaking, tying in your show with that thought of keeping the Preakness in Baltimore at PIMILCO, for folks who are pro that idea, pro keeping it in Baltimore. I think just pull up Leon Bluskowitz's interview with you on Wednesday. They might come up with a nice T-shirt for some of the phrases he threw out there in that arena.
Blue on Thursday was actually it was Wednesday.
Yeah, it was just before I came on because I said, how am I following that?
Oh, that's right. Blue was amazing. I mean, it's a traditional visit where we let him deliver his crab cake recipe, which everybody loves. It's the crab cake that they serve at the Prime Rib, and in Baltimore, and of course they've got Washington and Philadelphia locations as well. But there's frequently stories of either harrowing losses from a gambling side or great wins. He goes back, obviously, at the age of 88. He goes all the way back to the match race. He was a boy, but he was at the match race at PIMILCO. He just did War Admiral, and he trained a lot of nice horses, including a bunch that have stakes named after them, like the Steepat, the first stake of the whole weekend, going on Friday. Snowplow and Willa on the Move and so on. I mean, he had got a great career around the game, but he's also got strong opinions, including never having been impressed with Secretariat. You want to get a diatribe delivery? Ask him about Secretariat, and he'll bring you a dissenting opinion on his greatness. But when he talked about Laurel and that Laurel doesn't deserve the greatness, it was hysterical. He was at his best. 45 minutes, and he was in the bridle throughout. He was amazing.
Yeah, as they say, you called me. I thought, how am I following that guy? I was laughing the whole time, and he got on that Preakness staying at PIMILCO bandwagon, and he had a lot to say there. I would advise people to go to your website, the At the Races website, and pull up the archive from Wednesday. It's worth the listen. Also, just sticking a little bit with this topic, when the award was announced, your old Hilltop Award, the release also mentioned the DT stable, not just radio host, but you are a horse owner as well, and I'll let you touch on it. One of the runners ran yesterday in New York, but I know you had a winner earlier this week too with DT stables.
We had a busy week. We had on Tuesday had just enough hope come back and win back to back. It took her some maiden, and now she wins 2 in a row. It's just funny. And then we ran a mixed match this week. Unfortunately, the 3-year-old New Gelding that we really I have real expectations for, Kid Chocolate. He came out of the race on Thursday with a throat issue, and he's going to surgery.
Nope. Did we lose Steve?
The doctor.
Oh,
I'm here.
Yeah, we lost you for a second. We got you now.
No, I just mentioned that Kid Chocolate came out. He's got paralyzed larynx that is going to require a tie-back surgery. So that'll happen Tuesday at the Cornell Center. Dr. Ducharme himself, actually, who created the tie-back surgery and also the Cornell collar, he's going to do the surgery. He happens to be downstate on Tuesday. So, and then yesterday, Carlisle Bell, we got hustled into that race, and I thought she was going to be third in there, and got carried a little bit. She ran well.
Yeah, she got snudged for third. I thought she was going to get third in there as well.
That 7 pound, it's a little 7 pound. I don't know that kid. I don't know if that kid's going to make it in New York.
Yeah, well, it's particularly, it's always tough, and we'll see. It's not the time of year, really, to be taking the shots like that. But just before we get to Preakness, Black-Eyed Susan, and whatnot, I'm really curious. You were down there all week, and you were talking to the players, obviously, and whatnot. I'm interested if there was any buzz on this Gary West offer, the $20 million offer, $5 million to any of the 4 horses, Country House, Warville, Long Range Toddy, Bodie Express, who can finish in front of Maximum Security in their next start. If those owners also put up $5 million, I'm wondering if there was any buzz on that over the past few days.
Well, I don't know if buzz is the right word. It feels like it was kind of a divisive topic. At first, not knowing that all the stuff this must have been on Friday when it came out. Yeah, it seemed like something fun and something provocative. But then upon further view, it seemed like a little bit more of this bitter response that we're getting, and I feel terrible for Gary West because he's not. I don't think this is really all the stuff that's come out of his camp. It just doesn't feel like the Gary West that's been around the game a long time and who you rarely heard from, either positively or negatively. I think he is just so tortured by what has transpired here. And I think his best next move would be to just kind of withdraw, just let things play out. And I can tell you that a couple of people really resented the whole offer and the whole concept and doing it on Friday. Specifically, a major owner who came away with the big prize yesterday. He felt it was a more or less a grandstand play to upstage the Preakness itself, and that provoked a real resentment. And I talked to another owner I was with yesterday for an extended period that also feels that it's a classless and kind of just a silly, coda to everything that's going on. Just quiet down and let the horses decide it on the track. But I don't know. There's kind of a mixed reaction.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it yesterday when we were doing the handicapping show, and we were kind of that thought that I can't imagine what Gary West. You put millions of dollars into the game, and then you win the Derby, and you have that Derby winner for 20 minutes, and then it's taken away. I can't imagine, but it's just kind of time to move on.
Yeah, I think that's what the industry has already done.
Yeah,
I think one of the unusual aspects of this is the national media and the international media that are just fascinated by this aftermath. I spent time with Nick Luck this week, and Nick says, I said, have you ever seen anything like this? And he said, no, never. Nick could not even identify a similar or remotely close tie internationally. He says it's the biggest story in a horse racing setting in his lifetime and in his time around broadcast media. I don't think we can argue. This week I brought up Codex and Genuine Risk quite a bit, and on Thursday, in fact, while I was at the breakfast, I had to play some things, basically on tape, and so we played the entire ABC telecast from the Codex Genuine Risk Preakness, and then I talked to Jacinto Vasquez and Alan Foreman about the aftermath. And that's the closest we've had, really, to what this Derby controversy is. And this, the Codex Genuine Risk thing, people still talk about it, but the controversy, quote unquote, is long gone. This controversy is not going to go away, and ever. And of course, War of Will winning yesterday only further enhances, those that want to keep the ball in the air on the story.
Yeah, that definitely had people looking back at the incident on the far turn. And let's get to the Preakness. Let's get your thoughts. We're going to pull them coming out of the gate. Number 9, Bodie Express will lose John Velasquez right at the start. If you see the head-on shot of that, he really gets bucked right off up into the air. But Bodie Express loses John. And speaking of press, when I went to put up some headlines on Equidaily last night, boy, the media jumped all over the riderless horse. That was a bigger story almost than the Preakness and the winner itself. But Bodie Express loses the jockey at the start. It will wind up being number 1, War of Will. Nice ride by Tyler Gaffleone, saving ground all the way around. Dale gets it done with the late entrant, number 10, Everfast. Number 5, Owendale, a horse I like a little bit, winds up running 3rd in here. I had Always Mining on top. there were a few strides into the stretch where you thought we're one stride away from getting into a real kind of competitive situation. Just never kind of did that. Faded late to wind up 11th in the field of 13. So always mining for me was the disappointment. But again, validating for a lot of people the thoughts they had maybe in the Derby was number one, War of Will. Your thoughts on the Preakness?
Obviously, the pace is the story here, and there was every reason to believe that with the additions of a couple different horses, including Market King, you knew, and Warrior Stars coming off that win on the Fantasy Undercard at Oaklawn, and you had to know that the pace was going to get pretty much charged into versus what we had expected even a week before. So that part of it really played out. I mean, when they went in 22-2, that was the first indication. And at the 46th lap of the half mile, it became very clear. And so the horses that you immediately were watching were the horses that were just behind Warriors Charge and Market King, and I think another twist of fate was set up outside as well. Win from the 13 hole. Julian Patel, really kind of broke running, and he almost had no choice. I mean, I know that Trombetta wanted him into the race, quote unquote. I don't know if he wanted him, as the way it turned out, he didn't necessarily want him that close. I think maybe back 7th, 8th, 9th, like where Owendale was, might have been preferable the way things turned out. But be that as it may, Warriors Charge ran a spectacular race in here. And the team from 10 Strike Racing, Marcus Graham, who was really front and center all week, and a great experience for all of his partners. Warriors Charge ran a terrific race. And it's funny, they came off the turn, and you said to yourself, well, he can't win with these splits, going 1-2. To do it. So now you're trying to figure out, which of these horses behind the speed, who's going to get the perfect run. I mean, Improbable was another great position all along, and clearly he just does not have the punch going this classic distance. And then all of a sudden you saw those things come to Gary Barber, down inside, and realized, that's Warren Willis going to win this. And it's been very clear, past the 8th ball, that Jack Leone had ridden a perfect race. That's where they were compromised by the one hole 2 weeks ago. They were absolutely the beneficiary of the one hole in here. Tyler used them just enough to get the early position, and then just nursed it all the way around to win. And I got Dale on the morning of the draw. We got Dale on the last 15 minutes of the show. You were with me.
Yeah.
And, Dale said, we ran good in the past 15 miles. He's come out of it good. The distance is what he wants. And by the way, how about the weekend? A story that nobody's really noticed. Calumet Farm had a huge weekend. Their horses, with all their different trainers, ran terrific, including the huge upset in the Chick Lane, that Lexiconian, who, if you handicapped that race, you basically looked at that horse to see that there was a horse next to him, the two. You didn't look at that horse for 3 seconds. And Jack Dickerson was as surprised as anybody. You said they were basically taking his time, because they knew the field wasn't going to be that big. So Calumet Farm had a terrific weekend. There's several other horses that they set down pretty well. Basically, I think 4 different trainers. But anyway, I thought this was a defining performance for Mark Casse. The job he did here, Seth, really equates with this horse to the job that Tom Amis did with Serengeti Emperor.
Yeah.
There's a real parallel here. I mean, 56 days ago, they disappoint in the Louisiana Derby, the horse that dominated the run-up at Fairgrounds. And now everybody say, well, they can't go into the Derby out of this. Well, not only did they go into the Derby out of that, the horse ran terrific in the Derby. They were classy as can be, dealing with a lot of kerfuffle about the ride and about either not or going ahead, objecting, etc. And then they very quietly go up in Baltimore and they accept. And another part of this is that, Mark Casse 2 years ago took that agonizing loss with Classic Empire. So Casse and his team, including Dave Carroll, by the way. Dave Carroll, this is another classic for him. He was easy go, his exercise rider. He got Dennis of Court to a third-place finish in the Derby. This is a big win for Davey Carroll, who really, handled War of Will all through the winter and then into Cleveland, when they left New Orleans. So the whole team was terrific. Gary Barber, who's one of the great owners of the game, he got Mark Casse together. They won the Queen's Plate. Now they win Mark's first American Classic. Gary Barber, however, couldn't be at PIMILCO Saturday. He's at the Cannes Film Festival. So we're going to talk to Gary from Cannes on Tuesday, but I was texting with him last night. He was absolutely thrilled to get the win. Tyler Gaston gets a vindication of sorts, and I thought it was a very satisfying. I said to Tina this morning when we got in the car, I said, well, we're leaving with a much more satisfying feeling than when we left Louisville.
Absolutely, with War of Will winning. Underneath it was a little different, though, with Dale's horse. And I will say, the odds were strange to me, too. I'm wondering,
crazy.
A few years ago, after Mind That Bird and Giacomo won the Derby, we had a few years where you couldn't get a price in the Derby. You couldn't get a legitimate long shot price. And I'm wondering if some of the odds yesterday were factors on what we saw a couple of weeks ago at Churchill, because Dale's horse was 29-1 off a 50-1 morning line, and that 51-1 was probably more like it. But Bourbon War is the second choice at 5-1, seemed too short as well. So the odds were strange.
Well, he ended up at 11-2, Bourbon War, and then you had that whole group of horses at 6 and 7-1. War of Will at 6-1 was a huge overlay, and I didn't even notice it until I looked up, after past the wire while we were waiting for Casse to come back with the horse. And I looked up, I said, "Oh my God, he went on at 6-1? You got to be kidding!" 8-1 on Owendale, 11-2 on Bourbon War, 13-2 on Always Mining. So the public was really confused. And I think that really reflected the discussion everybody was having about the race. I think there was a real tumultuousness to this, not the least of which, Seth, is what happened to the pace scenario with the late addition. I think people, if the horses that came in late, not that Everfast was going to impact the pace, but Warrior's Charge and Market King, I think when they came in and people realized, there's now going to be extra pace pressure on Always Mining and potentially War of Will, depending on how they came out, and Improbable, depending on what they were going to do with Mike Smith. I think that kind of confused people further, and that was really reflected in the board. You're right. Everfast should have been 45-1 or something on the win end. But good for Dale.
Absolutely.
Some people took some stupid. This Twitter, it's a haven for morons and scumbags. And I'll tell you, I read something from a former trainer. A former trainer took a shot at Dale Romans the other day that was absolutely despicable and inexcusable. And at some point, I'm going to go find that and ask Carl Coppola what his opinion is of Dale today, because I thought that was reprehensible. When Carl Coppola figures out a way to do what Dale Romans has accomplished in the game, let us know.
Yeah, and I always applaud guys like this. You can't win the race unless you're in the starting gate, and I applaud them for taking the shots like this, and this just kind of validates that approach. They stepped in on Wednesday, and they get the second place finish in the Preakness, so good for them.
Well, and again, this goes back to Calumet Farm and Brad Kelly, the reclusive billionaire. Brad Kelly is one of these guys you never hear from. His daughter runs the Calumet operation, and they've got the bloodstock advisors, that work out in the marketplace, acquiring bloodstock, and they don't have the kind of stallion roster that competes with the big stallion farms. But Brad Kelly has saved Calumet Farm after not that it needed saving in the way that Heinrich Dick saved it, but he's maintaining the Calumet legacy. He likes to see those black jackets with the gold chevrons, and God bless Brad Kelly. I mean, he spreads horses around. He's giving horses to people like Jack Sisterson. Good for him. I thought that this was a really good result in that regard. Brad Cox won third and fourth with his first two starters. I haven't gotten a confirmation, but I'm expecting that Brad Cox won the $100,000 trainer bonus that's usually reserved for Steve Asmussen. Steve had a couple less starters than, he kind of fired his big bullets 2 weeks ago at Churchill. But Brad Cox had a big weekend. This was a very good 2 days of racing, and good 2 days for the game.
Yeah, I had Brad Cox on the other day and talked about his entrance over the weekend, and always root for him because he's always accommodating and whatnot. We'll talk about one of his in just a moment, but before we do that, let's take a look on Friday. Get your thoughts on the Black Eyed Susan. And again, the first couple of legs of the Triple Crown and the Kentucky Oaks and the Black Eyed Susan as well. 3-year-old girls, 3-year-old boys. I think it sets up a nice Belmont Stakes weekend in New York, but maybe more importantly, I think things are going to play out nicely in the Travers and the Alabama, and that goes into the Black Eyed Susan, where I thought Point of Honor being lightly raced with a good performance could wind up right in the discussion at the top of that 3-year-old filly division. I think that happened. She's going to be the number 8 horse in here, but does get all she can ask for from the number 3, Eulalie, from Brad Cox, who's going to ding-dong it right to the wire. Chart margin of a half a length. Cookie Dough, the number 4, runs third in here. But again, lightly raced. This was only career start number 4 for Point of Honor from George Weaver, and I thought a pretty nice performance.
Now, George has managed this Curlin filly really well, and it was some Friday for Curlin. Curlin with no less than 3 sons and daughters because Tenfold comes back to Pimlico. Last year it was a wet track that he ran over in the Preakness and ran great. He ran a superb race to win the Pimlico Special. Point of Honor wins the Black Eyed Susan, and Lady Curlin won the Allaire DuPont for Brad Cox. So a big Friday for Hillendale's Curlin. This is George Weaver. He's one of our favorite guests on Loose on the Lead on Saratoga. We always have George every year. He is, I think it's easy to say, the most I won't say underrated, because I think everybody knows he's a terrific horseman, he and his wife Cindy, but I'm going to say underappreciated. I mean, George is so outwardly quiet, and he's not a self-promoter. He's not a guy that's out there, trying to drum up business for himself. Frankly, that's why I'm happy to try to do it and have him on as often. But anybody who knows him, and once you crack that facade of shy quietness, he's actually quite a character and a lot of fun. He's really cut out of the Todd Fletcher mold, who of course he worked for. So I can't gush on George Weaver enough. George is terrific, and of course, how about Aaron Wellman? He gets his second Black Eyed Susan. He won the one 2 years ago with Todd. Aaron, another terrific, youngish player in the game who does a tremendous job. Was delighted for them. And Castellano, what a day he had!
Yeah.
Wow, I mean that was nobody. 5 wins, 4 stakes. It's crazy.
5-bagger on Friday, and I wanted to go to one more Friday race because I'd love to know the buzz down there. I'm assuming it was active, certainly. I wanted to go back to the Miss Preakness. Speaking of Castellano and Brad Cox, they teamed up with Covfefe. We're going to watch the stretch run to the Miss Preakness. The number 2, Covfefe, gets it done. But it's not that she got it done. It's not that she got it done by 8.5 lengths, but it was the teletimer. She breaks the track record, and it wasn't until I had Frank Vespi on the next day, and I hadn't caught up with some of the follow-up to it or whatnot to realize she broke the track record by over a second in here. And we're watching the stretch run here. She just runs away. What was the buzz on track Friday after Covfefe?
I watched it upstairs in the press box, and everybody was a god. Everybody was looking at each other like, what what was that? Because and even, I mean, I actually had kind of watched the timer because could tell she was motoring, but I mean, the way she tore around the turn, it just flew away. I also had my eye on Mark Reed's Please Flatter Me, the runner-up. I had spent some time with Mark during the week, and, I'm a big fan of that filly. She was getting back to, sprinting off the layoff, and she was really running. And I'm watching, and I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. She's just running away from a very good filly in Please Flatter Me. And then when the number flashed, 107. 107. And we all looked down. I think I was with Evan Hammond from the Blood Horse. We looked at the program, and there it was, Northern Wolf from 1990. They don't run as many races as they used to at PIMILCO, but in 19 years, they've run quite a few races at 6 furlongs. It was stunning. And then I went inside. Jay Krivman was standing up watching the replay, and Jay wanted to make sure that the number didn't post, that the timer, that you didn't see on screen, the timer before he passed the wire, because Jay's first idea was somebody tripped it. And so Jay he was watching, and then he said, "You did that." He goes, "She really did that. Nobody tripped the wire." I mean, it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. 107 buyer, and it just, one of those freaky things. Don't forget, there's been a lot of moisture in the track early, overnight, and it may have just been a confluence. I mean, Chalon, who had run in the Breeders' Cup filling in their sprint earlier on the course, he wins and wins well. It's insane. It was absolutely unbelievable. It was the only thing everybody was talking about. We went to dinner at the Prime Rib later that night, and there's always a lot of people from the track that head over to the Prime Rib, and that's all people were talking about there.
Yeah, it's. I had Brad on, and he said we decided at the Frizette, we'll go and kind of regroup and probably concentrate on the shorter races this year. I said, well, maybe we'll steer up at Saratoga in the test. He said, well, we want to get this one out of the way first. And now I think the test has to be firmly in their sights up at Saratoga.
Yeah, and then good luck. I'm sure they'll still be a great field, but everybody's going to be looking to find a easier spot. I mean, they'll be running at Prairie Meadows to avoid her. I mean, forget it.
All right, let's get a thought also on some of the other Saturday races. Let's go to the Dixie, because that was the return of Catholic Boy. I put Inspector Lindley on top, realizing the Catholic Boy had the opportunity to win. I put that one right underneath, but I thought Inspector Lindley, a little more recency. Overall, some very good numbers. Boy, that one disappointed. Inspector Lindley wound up running 6th in the field of 10. But Catholic Boy, no disappointment there. We're going to watch the stretch run of the Dixie. Catholic Boy, the number 12 horse. Admission Office, another horse that I thought was a little bit intriguing, runs 2nd. Just Howard runs 3rd in here. But a pretty good comeback from Catholic Boy, and sets up what is going to be a nice 4-year-old season. As I heard talk after the race from Jonathan Thomas, they may shoot for the Suburban on the dirt. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out here with a horse that unusually is at the top level, both dirt and turf.
It was a fun race, and I was personally mildly against Catholic Boy. I just thought, there's too many other options that are going to be saving ground. I actually keyed off at Just Howard, who was a nice number, and I thought ran well. It was a fun comeback. Nice to see Catholic Boy come back. They've had obviously there's leading issues with him. So Jonathan Thomas manages them very carefully. Great start to the season. That's great to have him back.
And we're getting close to the end of the show here, so I'm just going to zip back to race number 3 on the card, the Sir Barton, because I just want some thoughts on the Pletcher runner that won. It was a short field of only 5, but it was that kind of a race talked about on the handicapping show yesterday with some of those potential second season, a little bit later in the year, 3-year-olds. King for a Day hadn't been seen since running 4th in the Kentucky Jockey Club last November. So this was the seasonal debut for the Pletcher runner. I took a little shot with Top Line Growth out of the maiden claiming waiver race. That one, though, winds up 5th in the field of 5 when they eventually come under the wire. And that was one of those kind of shots. I put the Pletcher horse right underneath, however, but King for a Day looked pretty good at the comeback at 2-5.
Couldn't care less. It's a meaningless. It's just a non-event, to be honest. That race, funny. The Sir Barton suffered from the Preakness. There were Coley Blind, the stakes coordinator at Maryland Jockey Club. Coley expected about 3 horses in the Preakness that were supposed to run in the Sir Barton. So the Sir Barton suffered. The horse to watch out of that race, that Tone Broke, is heading toward the Queen's Plate for Aston.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. And not surprising given the breeding, but again, I think King for a Day it sets himself up to be one of the interesting players kind of going forward on the 3-year-old scene potentially. Yeah, it was a comeback though, and off the comeback, nice effort. Had only 3 races. A 2-year-old showed some flashes in there. Before we go, anything else you want to key on over the couple of days down to Pimlico?
Well, a couple other winners from the weekend. That Icky Masho, what a nice job Roger Atfield has done with that one. And
you knew off the fractions, though. I mean, he just loped along on the front end.
Well, there was the scratches out of there that pretty much demanded a win. How about the Louisiana bred winning the very one? That was something, and beating Joe Air, the Wesley Ward. And, speaking of, by the way, Atfield also won yesterday. He won in Louisville. He won the Louisville with the Tizza Slam. So nice day for the veteran there. How about what else did I like from the weekend? We mentioned Chalone coming back, winning the Ski Pat.
Mitchell Road for Bill Mott and the Gallarette.
Yeah, how about, by the way, if I could pull the Andy Sterling line, they knew 2-1? 2-1? It's funny. I immediately texted Andy afterwards. I said, "Boy, they really knew." And the Gallarette, Andy said, thought the same thing.
Yeah.
They did. I didn't get the memo. I was happy to use Mitchell Road, but 2-1, really?
Yeah, to me, exactly. I thought usable, but at best, I was thinking third choice.
Yeah. Then you had that crazy Chick Lang I mentioned with Lexingtonian. Was about 6th on your list, on anybody's list. That was it. I mean, it was a terrific 2 days. I think I'm pretty sure we're back at Pimlico for next year, and personally, I hope we're down there, for years and years to come. I absolutely love going down there, and as you mentioned when we started the visit, it was very, very special for me, and I want to publicly again thank Georgianne Hale, the longtime racing official, as well as Sal Sinatra and Dave Joseph, who pretty much, are the ones that settled on me as the Old Hilltop winner. This will be a week in Baltimore I'll never forget.
And again, congratulations on the award, well deserved. We listen on the network here every morning, the 3 hours every day. You do a great job, have for years, and as I say, the award was well deserved. So congratulations. And as we talked yesterday and before we went on the air today, you and Tina headed to a ball game at Yankee Stadium. So enjoy the game. Have a hot dog.
We'll have a what do they call them? It's not like a Fenway, Frank. Is it a Yankee dog? Is it a Yankee dog?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm sure it has a name though.
Yeah, it's got a probably. Yeah, we're actually we've zipped up from Baltimore. We're you did because we were going to go. We couldn't do our Waffle House, our traditional post Triple Crown first 2 leg dual classic Waffle House visit. So we are actually we're I don't know, what are we, half an hour away? Yeah, half an hour away. We zipped up here already.
And we just saw speaking, you and I were talking social media before we went on the air as well, and we just saw a social media picked up picture from yesterday of you and Tina. She in her gold outfit, or yellow outfit, and just pass along to her. She looks fabulous.
Let me tell you something. My wife, I think I'll keep her. There was nobody. I mean, she's top of the charts at most of these Triple Crown events and breeder stuff. But yesterday was show-stopping.
Actually,
Forget it.
we're cycling through. We cycled through 3 shots there, and yeah, she looks very good. So again, pass my compliments on to her as well. Steve, as always, appreciate the visit. We'll look forward to the week on the radio where you will be recapping the action as well. Drive safe back up from the stadium to upstate New York, and we'll be talking again.
Seth, I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Talk soon.
Steve Bick, again, did a great job with the radio show leading into the Preakness. And as I say, we put the replays here on the network. You can catch those this week as well, where he typically the week after does a lot of recap of the big stakes action on the big days. And you can expect that over the next few days via SiriusXM's At the Races with Steve Bick. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for today, but I want to go back to those promos that we talked about at the top of the show, because I do not want folks to forget that Bet 100, Get 100 promotion. If you don't yet have a Capital Bet account, now is the time to do it, because as soon as you wager 100 in, you get $100 put into your account. Free money, baby. That all winds up on May 31st, however, so keep that deadline in mind and sign up for your new account before May 31st and take advantage of Bet 100, Get 100. Also, 3% Churchill bonus today. And you see dates there where that will continue. You play through your Capital OTB Bet account on Churchill. You get a player bonus of 3%. There are some restrictions. Check out the website for more details. And we would love to see you here at the Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon, because there's a $100 win-a-bet promotion. So you can come down, watch all the racing action, and maybe grab a little extra dough with the contest. Come on down and join us, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. First, we want to thank our friends at Woodbine. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. We have our Queen's Plate trip all planned out. That'll be a lot of fun, our annual visit up there for that 3-year-old race. And as Steve said, Tone Broke, who came out of the nice little second, was a nice closing second in the Sir Barton yesterday. He'll be headed up there as an Ontario bred for Steve Asmussen, and we'll see how the field is shaping up over the next few weeks. Look forward to our visit to Woodbine for Queen's Plate weekend coming up towards the end of June. All right, going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America, but as always, be back in a couple hours for OTB Live on a Sunday afternoon. We'll see if we can regroup again. OTB Live yesterday was pretty much just out in the parlor with me taking the shots on Preakness Day, which, as I said, I was treading water yesterday afternoon. Pretty good day Friday in here with OTB Live. Thursday we did the Twilight edition, and I thought Thursday we had some good opinions as well. So we'll see if we can jump back on the horse this afternoon as we'll be taking a look at our 4-track. Saratoga Harness will be in the mix. Churchill, Woodbine in Belmont. Again, that'll all come up in a couple hours. So wrapping it up for Racing Across America for this Sunday morning. We'll see you in a couple hours.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.